All right. Hello, everybody. Hi. Nice to see you. My name is Kat Hapley, and this is the HYPErfocus podcast where we focus on ADHD content creators and their experiences. Today, I have with me RyuTheRed and SoyTortuga, who are content creators on Twitch. And so we are here to talk to them about ADHD, content creation, as well as fatherhood. So I just wanted to introduce them. Ryu, sorry. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about your content creation journey, who you are as a content creator, how you got here?
Yeah, so I started streaming back in 2015 or 14, 15, something like that. I'm mainly an MMO streamer, and so like I stream games like Black Desert Online, WoW, Final Fantasy 14, stuff like that.
Nice.
So I generally enjoy streaming nights because I can actually not have to worry about the children's and stuff like that. So yeah,
Completely
that's pretty much.
understandable. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. By the way, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit distracted right now. I just realized I forgot to make you guys some commands. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to copy both of your links. And Soy Tortuga, is it just Soy Tortugas or Soy Tortuga TV for Twitch?
Just Soy Tortuga.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to copy paste it and then post it in the chat a couple of times as we go along. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Ryu. That's awesome. How about you, Soy?
I got started a little bit later than Ryu. I came to the platform off and on until I want to say 2016 when I was out of work and decided to go for it. And I stream mainly used to stream battle royales, mostly switched over to games like Overwatch and whatnot. Currently I'm on a hiatus due to fatherhood and just focusing on other things as well.
Understandable. I remember when I was playing a whole bunch of Overwatch, I was spending so much time on it. Like, it's so easy to just drop like hours on Overwatch, and I'm having a hard time not dropping hours on Valorant. So I completely understand. That's awesome. What inspired y'all to start streaming? I love asking that question to people because people come to it from such different places all the time. So like, what inspired y'all?
I'd have to say just the ease of not having to edit, like the thought of being live and talking to people like as you do stuff. I don't know. It's always like having friends around to talk to.
Do you find it like, have you ever done any kind of like YouTube or anything like that? And do you find streaming to be easier?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of YouTube, and I don't know. I just don't like editing at all. Like just doing it just raw live is so much easier.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I feel like I haven't started any YouTube, like I haven't done like any YouTube videos besides putting these on YouTube, but I feel like when I think about doing a YouTube video, it sounds like just the weirdest thing, like writing a script for a video and like filming the video, and then because I don't know, something about streaming, I just feel the ability to be more I don't know. I just talk a lot, I guess. And so organizing my thoughts in a way that like into a YouTube video just kind of feels a little weird for me. But yeah, how about you, Soy?
I kind of got started for similar reasons. I mainly needed something to fill time, and I'd come from doing YouTube videos because at the time I had a partner that would do all the editing, so I didn't have to worry about that. And then like he basically dropped off the face of the planet, so that went away. So the idea of it being live, not having to worry about anything, just being spontaneous, really appealed to me. And also wanted a way to kind of document the what I thought were funny moments between my friends and I in video games. So
Awesome. Awesome. That's I think that's a good like kind of segue. I feel like that conversation about, you know, the kind of off the cuff stuff, I think that's a really good segue to talk about ADHD. I would love to talk about ADHD coming from the perspective of do you feel that there are maybe positives to ADHD when it comes to content creation? Do you find there are more negatives for you? If you can go into your experience with ADHD regarding content creation, how does it feel? You know, what things are different compared to other people who don't have ADHD, stuff like that. And any of you can go first.
Go ahead, you first.
Well, the thing I've noticed, but it mainly depends on the games that I stream. I struggle a lot with like keeping up with chat. So, like, I don't know. I guess it's really important to find a game that meshes well with like how my brain works, as far as being able to constantly keep up with chat and interacting with them. That's like I think that's the only real challenge when it comes to streaming with ADHD for me, anyway.
It makes sense. There's a lot of things to like focus on. There's a lot of like computer windows to open. There's a lot of routines that we have to go through. There's a lot of like, you know, for instance, I completely just out of my brain completely forgot to make commands for this. So like just things like that. It's really, when there's so many moving parts, I can relate to it feeling a little bit like a lot sometimes. How about you, Ryu?
I think for me the biggest thing is scheduling, like remembering like when to stream and like what my own schedule is, and sticking to that, like making sure that I try to be as consistent as possible, because like I'm not a consistent person when it comes to streaming at all.
Yeah, that's relatable. I actually recently had to recently had to ask somebody in my community to be my calendar because I was wanting to do more community things, community driven kind of events and things like that. And whenever I would schedule them, or I would kind of like think about doing it but not get back to it, or if I scheduled them, maybe I would like cancel them or something like that. I had to ask somebody to actually be my calendar, and I would say like, hey, this is what I'm doing this week. Come to this particular channel on Sunday, and then remind me. Because if I have somebody else who's like, hey, you could do this, you know, then I'm more likely to do it. And eventually it got into a habit. But yeah, I definitely relate to you a lot in the scheduling portion. Like I've tried bullet journaling. I've tried buying calendars. I've tried like buying little, what's the word? Dry erase board calendars and things like that. And nothing seems to stick. You know, I always just kind of revert back to like, oh, what's going on in the calendar in my head?
Right.
Yeah. Are there any like routines or anything that y'all have developed that kind of help you guys along when it comes to either like routines leading up to stream or just like basic, you know, human routines? Like for me, my skincare routine is like super important to kind of keeping me on track and to kind of keep my moods level. So do any of you have any like routines like that?
I really don't have anything I have a routine like when I get set up, like like what I do when I sit down, like which applications I open first. What I changed, like you know, like going through changing your title, changing your game, setting up chat, making sure the bots are running, making sure you have a going live post, stuff like that. I don't really have anything leading up to it other than just sitting down and starting everything up.
Right.
It's mostly the same for me. Like I don't like back when I streamed regularly, I didn't have any sort of like routine as far as like getting to my rig and going. It was more so like which programs I opened first and just how I structured the beginning.
How was, if you don't mind me kind of moving away from content creation for a second, how was like, just, can you give us an idea of like what it was like growing up with ADHD, or did you not really know until later on in life? Like how was that experience for you guys?
I wasn't diagnosed until like late in life, just because I always had good grades. So I mean, typically when I'm a little bit older, so like it was pretty much thought that if you had good grades, there's no way that you could be ADHD or ADD, whatever. So unfortunately, like I didn't even get medication until I was like living out of the house, or living out of my parents' house. So, but I mean, growing up with it really sucked with everything. Like the only thing that really kept my attention were video games. Other than that, like school was hard, relationships were hard, being consistent with anything was difficult. Sports kind of helped that a little bit just because of the stimulation. But other than that, yeah, I didn't really know what was wrong with me. I didn't really know there was something wrong with me. I just thought that there was just like, it was really hard to do things, like keep my attention, pay attention to things and not like procrastinate 24/7.
Yeah, totally. Like that you bring up so many good points, because what was the first point you brought up? Oh, like relationships and things like that. I think one of the things that I am really interested in letting people know about when I do podcasts like this is people need to understand this isn't just something that affects like our work, right? This is something that affects like everything. It affects like the way that we like relate to people. It affects our emotions and how we deal with our emotions. I know that like I grew up very emotional and I didn't really know how to handle it. And so like if there's one thing that I'm really trying to get people to understand with these podcasts is this affects everything, not just our organization, not just our work. It affects everything. So I'm glad that you brought that point up. And then also the sports thing, that makes a lot of sense too, because exercise has been found to be like almost as effective as medication in stimulating norepinephrine and dopamine in the brain. So it makes a lot of sense. And like I do a lot of fitness content and stuff. And part of that is because like it keeps me active and it keeps me, consistently like taking care of my brain with exercise and stuff like that. How about you, right. Soy? What was the question again?
Well,
yeah, the question is ADHD diagnosis, things like that.
Well, my thing was, I think right when I turned around 4 or 5 was when the whole boom of like everyone getting their kids checked for it. Mm-hmm. So it kind of came around at the right time, and my mom was one of those very overprotective moms, so she was worried because I was always getting into weird situations. I wasn't focusing and all that, so we kind of went through it as best we could. I think I was fully diagnosed when I was 5, and they started me on Ritalin, and I don't think I made it through an entire a prescription of that before my mom basically went back to the neurologist. Was like, yeah, I know this ain't working. He's dead now. Like he's not
Oh,
doing anything. Like
yeah.
he went from going a million miles an hour to just laying on the floor face down waiting to go to sleep.
Oh, yeah. That
Um,
sounds so hard.
and from there they put me on Adderall, and that basically resolved the issues from the Ritalin, and it did help me focus a bit. Um, and I think it was medicated all the way up until my seventh grade year when I really got into football, and that kind of same with Ryu kind of kept me uh, kind of focused on something else, and gave the structure I needed to really be able to handle myself. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good that you had family that really supported you. It's difficult when I've seen a lot of like, you know, stuff online or whatever of like, oh, ADHD isn't real and just things like that, and it gets so angering. So I'm glad that you had like a lot of support growing up, and that you know, you and your family, you know, tried, and everything like that. Um, that I'm actually curious about. This might be kind of like a hot take situation. What is, and especially because you guys are dads, kind of what is your take a little bit when it comes to ADHD kids, medication and things like that? This is a little bit of a hot take moment, so if you don't want to answer, let me know. But I know that like it's kind of like a big topic in the ADHD community about, you know, kids, are we overdiagnosing them, things like that.
I 100% think it's overdiagnosed. I wish that they would spend a little bit more time. Like, I wish I was diagnosed sooner. Because then I feel like medication would have helped me a lot more. Um, Having it earlier in life, but at the same time, you have all these kids that are overdiagnosed and they show just little baby signs of ADHD, and then they're thrown on medication. So I think that, in my opinion, I don't think medications should start until maybe they're like, I don't know. It depends on the kid, but until like around they're in the double digits at least, and then just a little bit more criteria for diagnosing people, because it's really easy to get diagnosed as ADHD. It's like a 12-point checklist or something, and I don't know. I feel like it needs to go a lot more in depth with how we find out if someone is or isn't.
Right. How about you, Soy?
I honestly, I really kind of agree with the whole overdiagnosis thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have a lot of friends who were diagnosed at a young age and then were put on medication, and it kind of screwed them up for, I guess, up until their adulthood, and they were able to get themselves off the meds and realize, hey, I just had a lot of energy as a kid and I ran around a lot, and it kind of like I've seen a lot of people just have their whole lives kind of upended because they went off medication and realized, hey, I'm just normal, and it, like, I don't know as far as that, but I I think if there was a more in-depth sort of method to determine, like, with a higher success rate as far as correct diagnosis, like, I have no issues when it comes to medications, but it should be treated in the same way that most mental health uh, disorders are treated. Like, you basically run through the medications that are available until you find the thing that works perfectly for you. Um, and even then, you got to figure out the correct dosage, because you it's all about the chemical balances in your head. You don't want to mess up too bad.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I appreciate your takes on it, and it's yeah, I do feel the same way. In that, you know, sometimes kids are just kids, right? And I feel like it's easy to just say that something is ADHD when in a lot of cases it could just be that the kid is not getting enough playtime like at home or something like that. You know, I think when it comes to kids it's important that we should try to like encourage them to be kids first, you know. Like go outside,
Right, for sure.
go play, like go like run around, be, you know. And that's kind of partly why I am just such a huge proponent of exercise now for ADHD, is because like that's just like a thing that I didn't understand what it did for me. And growing up I like kind of was avoiding like exercise and things like that. I was like, I don't like it. But now that I found something that I like, I notice like the difference in my brain, right? And so I try to kind of, you know, I try to kind of spread that idea that like, hey, let's try like going for a walk, you know, to kind of clear our heads, to kind of like focus a little bit more. And I definitely think that a lot of it I think a lot of it should be approached from a more holistic side, not necessarily completely, you know, throwing out the idea of medication in general. I'm not trying to, you know, talk about that at all, but just that when it comes to kids, I think it would be really helpful if we kind of start from a holistic point of view and then branch outward to medication if nothing's really helping, you know, like just things as simple as teaching them, you know, meditation and going outside and playing and exercising and things like that.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let me see. So part of the reason why I brought you guys on here is because I noticed on your Twitter profiles you're both dads, and so I would love to talk about that. I myself am an ADHD child, so I understand like how I understand like how my life with my parents can be a little bit stressful for them because you know, they have to deal with kind of my ADHD-ness, you know. And so I'm really curious because I don't have that experience, especially as a content creator. And honestly, this question might be a little inflammatory, but how the hell do you guys have time? Where do you find time? Like, yeah, just tell me a little bit more about your experiences with being a dad and ADHD.
I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Um, so my kids are a little bit older when I first started streaming. So like 5 years ago. So they would be what, 4, 5. So like as long as I had my wife home, I could stream, or I would stream while they were in school. So it's not like I was taking care of babies or anything at the time of like streaming, but it's been difficult. You know, like having to work around their time, having to work around, you know, helping with homework, and especially now with them having to like do schoolwork from home or school from home. It's been difficult, but it's doable. Like if you make the time for it, you can definitely find the time for it.
Totally. Welcome back, Soy.
Sorry.
No worries. It's all good. It's all good. Do you want to go into your experience?
Sure. Well, I started streaming well before I had kids. The child, you may actually even hear him in the background. He's right at 9 months, and
Aww.
it's been pretty challenging when he first got here, and I was still trying to balance everything. Basically, whenever he would have his naps, or I would wait till him and my fiance were asleep and stuff like that. But like, more times than not, he always took priority as far as like if I wanted to stream or do something. Usually it had to be like several days or a week or so in advance, depending on what it was. Like podcasts, I couldn't normally do unless I had like a week or two to plan ahead, just to make sure that everything was covered for him. But and now I mainly do content creation on TikTok, as far as like small little things I do with them. And for that, my content mainly focuses around my experiences with him and documenting him growing up and learning with him and learning about him. So I guess I've kind of intertwined the content creation with being a dad.
Right. That's awesome. That's really cool. You brought up a good point, Ryu. I keep thinking about this point. The teaching at home stuff, like that is some really hard stuff. I had to do that for my nephew last like semester, I guess is what they'll call it, last term, school term. And that was really hard. Did you guys come up with did you guys come up with a very specific schedule around that? How was scheduling for that?
Well, scheduling, like they're older. Like my kids are, let's see, I think 4th grade and 7th grade. Mm-hmm. That sounds right. I don't know. 4th and 7th.
Something like that.
My wife had to correct me. But yeah, so like their schedules are pretty set in stone with, like, they have to be online by like 9:30, and then they have class from this time to this time, and then they have a break, and then they have class from this time to this time. So I just gotta make sure that they actually get up and show up to class, and then do their homework after the allotted time that they have. So the scheduling isn't too bad. It's just I used to stream mornings, so now I have to stream nights because I have nowhere in the house that I have to stream, because they have to each be in separate rooms because they're all on Zoom calls.
Oh boy.
So it's been a fun experience.
Yeah, I bet. And everyone's just having to adapt to something completely new. Like I live with my parents, and my mom's a pastor, and so I had to literally teach my parents how to be streamers. I was like, oh, well, church needs to happen, and it needs to happen not at church. So, we got a green screen and everything. And so everyone's just having to really adapt to like something new. Like my mom's the person who's yelling from her house or from her room, like, don't make any noise, I'm filming a video. And stuff like that. Just very, very much like, oh, Mom, you're learning the way of content creation. But yeah, my nephew was, for me, it was difficult because my nephew is 8. And so he had like kind of a schedule where they would have videos. And so we had to like kind of schedule like time in between me and my mom's schedule to kind of, make sure that he does these videos, and things like that. And so it wasn't like the teacher's there and they're on a Zoom call. It was, here's the work, do it on your own time, which became a little bit complicated after a while, just because my mom and I had different schedules and things like that. So the distance learning, I think, has been putting a lot of people in positions where they've really had to adapt in ways that they're not used to. When people like started having to work at home, I was like giving the advice like, hey, here's how to work at home and not like suck at focusing. Especially as an ADHD person, like I do all of my work at home. The work that I normally do is at home, and then I do content creation on top of that. I've got some tricks up my sleeve when it comes to getting like the focus actually up. But yeah, it's a really difficult thing to adapt to. All right.
sure.
Yeah. Let me see. So what would you, I'm curious, what would you consider like is one of your biggest strengths as fathers?
I don't know. I try.
That's all that matters, isn't it? That's all that matters. Like, do you, I know for me when I was, sometimes it's easy for me to like, it's easier for me to like get lost in my phone when I'm hanging out with my nephew. Do you guys like, how is it with like focus issues? Do you guys have any issues focusing and like being able to be present with family? And are there, if that's the case, like, do you have any strategies to kind of work through that?
I mean, I have the same issue when it comes to my phone, and it's like a nice little major distraction tool for me. So usually what I tend to try to do is just actively be with him whenever he needs my attention. I try to, I guess, find things that I am also somewhat interested in that he can be occupied with, so that like it keeps my focus, and B, it's something we can maybe at some point bond over when he's able to form those sort of memories and be able to do that. So
Totally. Any experiences like that, Ryu?
If I'm spending like if they're not busy with something, I try to get rid of my phone. Like, I try to like put it somewhere so that when I am just spending time with them, it's as dedicated as it can be. Because sometimes, well, not sometimes, but I'm trying to think of how to say this. If I have my phone, I'm in my phone. So like, I basically hide it from myself and then spend time doing things like watching anime with my kids,
Nice.
playing video games.
That's cool.
Playing random board games, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But with them having schoolwork from home now, it's a lot less of that. So,
What kind of games do you like to play with them?
they like to play Minecraft and Roblox, so that's like those are my choices.
I know the feeling. My nephew is obsessed with Piggy. Have you played Piggy?
Yeah, I've played.
Oh my
Piggy.
gosh, my nephew is obsessed with it.
Both of you.
Like, my nephew is so obsessed with it that he has literally designed like an IRL Piggy game. So we're like setting it up on, in my house, just in different places. When he comes over, he's got like all the locks made, and he's got the keys made. We actually bought like little locks that we put around the house. We've labeled them, and got like keys for them and labeled the keys. And then he made, the place where you put the dynamite, and he made the just all this stuff. And so sometimes he'll come over and we'll like set it all up and have a couple of games where one of us plays the Piggy and then the other one, everybody else has to like solve the puzzle, and it's a lot of fun. It just gets really tiring though, because we're just like running around the house from each other, so it gets super tiring. But I relate to the Roblox a lot. My brother and I were talking about Piggy the other day, and I just wonder, like, did the people who make Piggy, did they have any idea how popular that would become? Because I feel like, what was that, just a thing that they just kind of like came up with one day for funds. Like, and now it's like the biggest thing. You get FGTV to play any game, and it's going to be super popular with the kids for sure.
Right.
I'm actually curious about this. What is your take on, like, do you guys let your kids, well, I know, so your kid's really little, so, do you, Ryu, do you let your kids watch, YouTube and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have, like, a lot of, like, strong boundaries around it?
They kind of know what they can and they can't watch.
Mm-hmm.
With my oldest, I have a lot of trouble with her because she's 12 and likes to push boundaries a lot.
Relatable.
But for the most part, they're like, I have most of the restrictions set up, and they're really good about what they can or what they do and what they don't watch. So I guess I'm fortunate in that department where I don't really have to like hover over them 24/7.
Right. I have like a bit of now that I'm almost 30 and I've experienced what it's like to kind of grow up with like cell phones and things like that. And just lately I've been kind of feeling, I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but lately I've been just kind of feeling like, man, kids shouldn't have like phones or anything like that with internet until they're like 14 or 15. I feel like I'm becoming a little bit of a curmudgeon in that regard.
No, I completely agree with you. Like, all of my kids want phones, and I'm just like, nope, not till you like absolutely need one.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, and we're content creators, right? We see like what it's like to be on the internet nowadays, and for me, what scares me is just cyberbullying. That scares me. You know, they're just fucking weirdos on the internet a lot of the times, and it just, you know, my nephew a couple of times has been like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up. I'm like, don't do that. Like, the internet is ruthless. Don't do that, you know, but just in a joking way. But like, yeah, I definitely, just the more that I kind of think about my relationship with phones, kind of like how they kind of operate in the brain, like they're, you know, it's a bit of a dopamine factory, right? You know, you post something on Twitter and you're just like, you know, the notification of like, oh, someone liked your thing on Twitter is like really stimulating in its own little way. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, I wish I didn't have access to the internet until much later in my life. And I remember I do remember when I was like 10 or 11 or so, I had like one of those like old Razor phones, you know, you could even do the internet on stuff like that. There's a good case to be made for like kids having phones for safety reasons, but like you can't have the internet until later. If I find myself in a situation where I have kids, I'm gonna be like, you can't have internet until like you're at least in high school, because the internet can get crazy. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm just worried about my kid becoming a gremlin if he's on the internet too young, because I know I was.
Like, what do you mean by gremlin?
Just like the worst kind of children that you interact with on video games. Like, I was terrible when I was younger, because like I was able to play video games online, I think, right, very, 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 like, I think it was 12, and I was just an idiot, and I made people's days bad and whatnot, so I just don't want him to end up like that and be messed up like me, so.
I get that, because I probably spent like, I spent a good amount of my time, maybe between the ages of like 14 to 16 on 4chan, and just like back when just you know, 4chan was less garbage than it is now, but still pretty garbage. And I'm just like, oh no, like I know what the internet can be like for a child. Like, no, I need to protect you. It's just like I don't want any other kids to like go through the same things that I did growing up on the internet. So yeah, it's definitely like a concern. It's definitely one of those things where we'll really see the effects of the internet, especially kids, like younger kids having the internet. We'll definitely start to see a lot more of that, I think, as time goes on, once they start getting older, and once like the internet is just becoming a lot more accessible, and things like that. And yeah, that's kind of, I'm kind of at a loss for any topics. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to talk about in specific?
I don't really have anything offhand.
Yeah, I'm finding myself at a little bit of a stall here.
I actually had something that I was thinking about.
Go for it.
I don't know if Ryu has experienced it himself as a dad, but I've noticed that my little one does a lot of the things that I did when I was younger, and even still do now, that I attribute to my ADHD. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's partially heartbreaking knowing that, like, with my experiences, what I went through, and I guess as a dad, I worry that he'll go through similar stuff, but I try to remind myself that I went through it as well, and I think maybe I know how to deal with it better. I don't know. I feel like I'm more equipped to deal with my child having ADHD if they do have it. So I don't know, like, really the talking point of it, but it's a weird situation when my fiance comes in and my kid is staring off into space like I do, and she looks over and I'm doing the same exact thing, deep in thought, and I don't know.
I think that's like a really good, that's important, and it's something that makes sense, right? Because ADHD is something that affects us in a lot of different ways. Like I mentioned before, our relationships are, like when it comes to school and things like that, it makes it hard for us in school. It makes it hard for us just, one of the statistics that I feel like people don't realize is that people with ADHD have like a 15% higher chance of getting into a car wreck. And, obviously when it comes to focus issues and things like that. And so that's like a health issue, right? Like ADHD isn't just like, oh, squirrel, LOL. Like it's a health issue in a lot of ways, because people with ADHD are probably like more likely to like kind of forego going to the doctor for things. There's the issue with the statistics in car wrecks and stuff like that. It's a health issue, so it like makes sense that at least for and I don't have that experience, but I would kind of understand that yeah, it could be scary, because especially if you've gone through like really crappy stuff because of ADHD. Like I know for me, obviously ADHD doesn't cause bullying, but like I experienced a lot of bullying growing up, and it really like kind of harmed me in a lot of ways. And I know that like that happens to a lot of people with ADHD growing up. And I also know that my emotional regulation wasn't really where it wasn't kind of the same as my peers, and so it made it really hurt, and so like one of the things is that that would be great if you don't have it, like I personally would feel like, oh, that'd be great if you don't have it, because you don't have to like go through that shit like I have to, you know, like in the same way that I have to. So it feels like it feels like understandable that you would feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah. The one of the other things that I've come to realize recently after having several conversations with my fiance is just how my brain works like completely differently than hers. Like we had a conversation recently that there are moments when someone who doesn't have ADHD can just sit and not constantly be bombarded by thought. Like I can't think of a single time in my life where like I wasn't thinking about something, even if I was just staring off into space or doing nothing and trying to relax. Like that's probably one of the weirdest things that I've had to deal with.
Yeah, I think one of the ways that I see it nowadays is that the fact that I know myself better and like how my brain works, the more I'm able to, and not that I think it's important, not that we should be like you know, diagnosing children, but like the idea that with ADHD and with kids with like learning disabilities and stuff like that, you kind of have to learn ways to deal with things that are like creative and out of the box, right? And I think that's kind of why school can be like, you know, traditional school could be really hard for kids with ADHD. Is that there's not like everything's kind of pretty standardized, you know, they kind of expect you to act a certain way, things like that. And so the fact is that having ADHD requires us to kind of cope in ways that we're not used to, you know, or like that other people may not cope, or other people may not deal with issues and stuff like that. And so I think it's really important that like regardless of whether or not a kid has ADHD, we should kind of like approach them as somebody taking care of somebody with ADHD would, right? Like instead of like kind of trying to hold them to a standard of what they should be like as a child, just come up with solutions, like creative solutions to like deal with just like blind spots that they personally have that you notice and that you start to see, because they don't have to have ADHD to like benefit from some sort of like accommodation when it comes to their work and things like that. How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, like the thing with children is that every one of them is different, and even children with ADHD are like you can have two kids with the same diagnosis that have completely different needs as far as engagement.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I needed a lot of structure, and I did need that sort of strict, like, I guess just the structure of school and in general actually helped me out a lot as far as how, like, and that might have been due to me being medicated the way I was, and yeah.
Yeah, I did not deal well with the routine of school. But that I think the thing is ultimately the funny thing is though is that when I left school, like specifically college, when I left school, I noticed like I was like I don't know how to do any of this by myself. You know, like I have no idea how to schedule my life by myself. But yeah, I kind of was able to get through school. Like Ryu said before, like I got decent grades. Like I didn't get great grades. I got better grades in like my music classes and things like that. But I got pretty decent grades. So if somebody just kind of like looked at me and looked at my grades, they wouldn't be able to tell whether or not I had ADHD, you know. But of course, like when I go talk to my psychiatrist, he's obviously like, yeah, you display some symptoms, because I just kept like interrupting him when he's talking and stuff. But that's so true. Like every kid is different. And yeah, for some people, like that routine is really, really helpful. And for some people, that routine can really like grate on you after a while. Have any of you experienced that where you like get into a routine with something and then eventually it's just like kind of the worst and you don't want to do it anymore?
Yeah, definitely.
In what kind of way?
I would say with streaming in general, like yeah, I would become so consistent that it would become boring, and then I wouldn't want to stream at all. And I think that's part of my inconsistency over the years has just been it becoming too consistent, and then you just not wanting to do it whatsoever.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that actually. Earlier on, when I was streaming, I kind of had like a very specific schedule of like, this is what we do on this days, this is what we do on that days, and what really tripped me up, I think, on a mental health, in a mental health way, was the like, what if I just didn't feel like dancing today? Like what if I just like wasn't, it was hard for me to like kind of push myself to do the thing that I kind of pigeonholed myself into, and eventually I kind of had to like make I kind of had to make adjustments, like, oh, maybe I'll just take off my camera today, because it's like the difference between me not streaming and me streaming with no camera. So we're gonna do no camera today. But yeah, I definitely can relate to that, where it just like everything got so monotonous that it was just kind of like, I just kind of felt like trapped and like, yeah, not inspired anymore. So that makes a lot of sense. I get that.
Yeah, I really gotta agree. Like in more aspects than just content creation, I think I experience a lot of burnout very frequently if it's something I'm doing on a routine basis.
Mm-hmm.
Like I eventually just lose interest and I don't want to do it anymore. Like I think I've had about 3 or 4 times where I just had to take an extended break from streaming just to figure out what I wanted my new schedule to be, because I would lose interest in a game completely, and just like when I stopped streaming Overwatch, I just completely stopped playing. Like I I'm just gonna play for a little bit today. It went like, what, I want to play this, but my entire channel is built entirely upon salty Overwatch streams. Like so, I guess I felt I needed to escape for about a month or 2 and then come back to it with a completely different shtick. Like there was a while where I was doing coloring streams just to put content out there that I didn't hate myself for making because it wasn't genuine or something like that. And even like in my job, I've quit jobs entirely because I just lost complete interest in, like, I would always have a job lined up afterwards, but like just the work I was doing didn't interest me anymore, and I just couldn't wake up every day knowing that today's gonna suck because I don't want to do it.
Relatable. How like would you say that you've gone through a lot of jobs then because of that?
Not really, but that's mainly because I still feel like I'm young,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't had enough time to just run through 100 jobs. Like I've gone through, since graduating college, I think I've had 4 or 5 different jobs,
Mm-hmm.
mostly contract positions, because I know that like after at some point in the 6 months or the year that I'm contracted out to these companies, I'm just not going to care anymore, and my work's just going to decline. So
Right.
I'm kind of limited to those sort of gigs, because if I don't, then like my entire career falls apart, kind of, I guess.
Right. How about you, Ryu? Do you stream full time, or do you work anything else on top of streaming?
I stream full time.
Okay, cool.
So, I haven't been lately just because I've been really busy with helping the kids with school and whatnot. But prior to them going back to school, I was a full-time broadcaster. So now it used to be full-time dad, full-time streamer, but with them being home like 24/7, it's just been mainly full-time dad.
Yeah, understandable. Have you worked like jobs before you got into broadcasting, and do you have that kind of like similar experience, or and this is a maybe not to Soy entirely, but I know a lot of ADHD people do struggle with kind of like sticking in a job for longer than they for a very long time. Have you had that kind of experience before?
Yeah. So I mainly worked in sales before streaming. So I would just be in a sales job, and whether in management or not, I wouldn't stay at the job for more than a couple years before I'd get burnt out and want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, the thing is that kind of annoys me about that conversation, though, is that a lot of people will frame that as like a bad thing. But like really what I've heard is that when people switch jobs a lot when they're younger, that actually leads to them having like more financial stability later. Like it's kind of like the old meta that you kind of have to find one job and then like stick with that one and, get with, be able to like spend all of your time there and make a family with the people that you're working with, and some people will kind of like look down on others for not spending too long in a job, like maybe 6 months here, a year there, when really it's been shown that the more you change careers as you're younger, the more likely you are to make a higher income later on. And so like it's unfortunate that there's like a little bit of a stigma, like a societal stigma against like switching jobs, and I was actually curious, did your experience in sales, like, do you use any of that in your content creation?
Yeah, yes and no, I guess. I mean, I know to be constantly critical of my content and like trying to look at things objectively as much as possible when trying to grow organically or whatever. Also with advertising on Twitter, Facebook, or wherever, I have to be hyper aware of what I'm putting out and what works and what doesn't work. But I wouldn't say that if I had never done sales that I wouldn't be successful streaming.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I feel like it's a lot of the information about marketing and things like that are things that people can really sort of learn on their own through practice. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And then, do you guys like have, so do you have like what would be your like dream job? Is like streaming like your dream job, or is there something that you're kind of shooting for?
My dream job would be like maybe get a community manager job at like a gaming company or something. Like something, I don't know, community manager for like Epic Games or something like that.
That would be so cool. I would love to do a community management job. It would be a lot of fun, I think. How about you, Soy?
Mine isn't really specific to streaming. In general, it's more so like I've always wanted to be an entertainer of some kind. At one point, like it was strictly I wanted to do stand up, but that was when stand up comedy was really big. But I think it's just wanting to entertain people in general. And I think like right now the medium of live streaming is one of the easiest way to break into that and be able to do that. But at the same time, I would love to do some sort of like community manager sort of thing as well, or just helping out other people that want to break into the industry and really don't have a mind for it. Like I know a lot of people that get real frustrated because because their channel isn't growing or they're doing something that's like detracting away from what their like full potential is. Like I really enjoy helping other creators in that aspect.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you so you seem like a very helpful person. You seem like a very like someone who really cares about helping people.
I wouldn't say that. I'm like, I just like things to be efficient. By trade, I'm an engineer.
Okay.
I'm used to dealing with robots more than people. And it irks me when people do things that are actively hurting them and what they're trying to accomplish. So I guess it's more of a, hey, I don't want you to keep doing this dumb thing. So here's a pro tip. Don't say dumb things on Twitter. There you go.
This is the tip of the year. Don't say dumb things on Twitter. Oh my gosh, that's funny. My dream job is to have just like a studio space where I could do things like teach yoga and do flow arts and dance and just be like I like, oh my gosh, it's such like a starving artist kind of path for me. But like I've always just wanted I don't want to work for anybody, because I'm just that kind of person. I don't want to work for anyone. I want to like create my own schedule and be able to like get by with my talents and things like that. And actually, so you said something interesting, because you like efficiency. ADHD brains are pretty efficient, because I feel like a lot of times we're like looking for like the way to do a thing with the least amount of steps, because otherwise we're going to forget that we're doing it halfway through, or it just feels like a hard thing to do in general. Do you feel like ADHD kind of like lends to that sort of attitude of like you like things being efficient?
Yes and no. I don't know if I fully agree with the argument that ADHD brains themselves are more efficient. It's just that we're wired to have an output that is efficient.
Right.
I know for a fact that I will sit down and think of endless scenarios and what I should do in each one of those scenarios to have like the most success. But like I know someone who doesn't really have like the constant like brain activity of just like actively thinking. They don't really do that. So I think that really lends itself to being efficient. And I don't know, when I'm working, I tend to think of scenarios that like lend to completing a task a lot better. Like I think, well, if I do this and this happens, if like the combination of engineering with robots and programming, like I don't have to write out a code like 50 times to break it down. It's more of I think about it and it's like, okay, if I write this happens and that's no good. And then I eventually just like rather quickly get to the point where like, okay, here's what it needs to know. And I guess the final output is efficient.
Right. That makes sense. I had a thought, and of course I ADHD'd it. I forgot what it was, but I had a thought. Darn it. Well, I was gonna ask, do you all have like any sort of, this is what I was gonna ask. when it comes to work, when it comes to like preparing for work and things like that, or strategies that you have to stay focused at work, do you have any of those?
I actually build a good relationship with my manager. That way they can be like the person way in the background. Because the nature of most of my work is it's hands free. Like I just report out on it like once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And like I guess like I want to say something like 15 projects at a time. So it's just me just prancing around a factory, like doing my own thing, and then I think on Thursdays I like go to my manager and like, yo, Mike, I did X, Y, Z. I didn't do anything for these three things because I'm waiting on other people. And like, I think just having the conversation to really just get my thoughts out there and everything, and someone else that like logs it really helps me because I can't like I have like 100 notebooks and it's just all of the same information just because I try to like memorize it and not forget it.
Yeah,
So
I
I
could.
guess
Sorry, continue.
just yeah. So I guess it's just like having someone there that will, I don't know, keep tabs on me and make sure I don't go crazy or something.
That's smart. That like I think that's really a good tip is find a workplace where your manager respects you and what you need, you know? Like part of the reason I like my job, but it's also like painstakingly boring. But the reason why I stay is because the managers I have, I'm able to like be like, hey, I suck at this particular thing because I struggle with ADHD because my organizational skills are just like not there really, and so I kind of like try to be as open with them as possible about that kind of thing, and because like I'm good at, you know, I call people all day for a market research company. I just ask you like, hey, what kind of cereals do you like to buy? Cool, let's get you
Captain
into
Crunch.
yeah, like so like yeah. And if I'm looking, I literally have done studies where I was looking for people who liked Captain Crunch and bought Captain Crunch. And so it's like, oh, you buy Captain Crunch, let me put you into a focus group, and then you'll get paid like $150 to talk about, you know, that's what I do. And it's like really boring because I'm asking the same questions over and over and over and over again, and it's like really, it requires a lot of organization. But at the end of the day, my supervisors are like young and hip, and they get me, you know. And like that's like, as someone with ADHD, it freaks me out to like work in a new place, because I'm afraid that like I'm gonna make a mistake and somebody's really not gonna be happy about it, you know, and it's just like gonna be a really bad thing, and my supervisors aren't gonna understand, you know, and so really like our relationships with our supervisors is really important, I think, to kind of help us feel supported, because otherwise like a lot of us deal with anxiety around whether or not we're doing things right and stuff like that, because sometimes we can just make more mistakes, you know. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that you have like a good relationship with your supervisor in that way. So it's like it's kind of like a nice little symbiotic relationship in that regard. So
Yeah, for now, because this contract is actually ending. Well, it comes to an end at a certain point, and I'm really regretting, like, not looking forward to the conversation with my supervisor where he's either gonna, like, I'm worried that my supervisor wants to keep me around because I'm not gonna stay around. Like, I'm starting to get at the end of my rope as far as like interest with everything, because I've been in every sort of department that my role can be in. So there's like nowhere else for me to go besides out and elsewhere. Um, so it's not going to be a fun conversation. But like, hey, we would like to keep you on for 2 more years, and I'm going to be like, no, bud, I'm out.
Oh, oh no. Yeah. Yeah, that's always hard. I worked in HR for a while, and like the idea of firing people or like asking people to leave is like the hardest thing in the world, and I don't wish it upon anybody. Like working in HR is ridiculous. Just like, oh, now I have to tell you that we don't want to hang out with you anymore.
You can't come play anymore.
Yeah, you can't sit with us. Ryu, to you the question, do you have like any routines or strategies for helping you stay focused while you're working? And since you do like full-time content creation work, when things are kind of stable, do you feel like you have to like do you feel like content creation work is really drives you a lot to where you don't really need strategies, or do you feel like you need strategies to kind of keep you on task?
I feel like it drives me enough that I really don't have to have anything pushing me to do anything else other than what I'm doing. Yeah, I feel like when I can stream, I do stream. And I have to make sure that I don't over stream as well. I think is another thing that I fall into, is like when you stream too long, then you screw up your sleep schedule, and then you're like, I don't know, you're awake at 6 a.m. and you have to get the kids up at 9. So I think just time management mainly is the biggest thing I have to worry about.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I actually had to, after a while, I had a time where I would start, and then I would kind of try to end at a specific time, but then I would go later, and that's just not. And I stream at night too, so it gets really like not good for my sleep schedule to like not hold myself to the boundary that I set for my stream. You know, I'm like, I stream from 7 to 10 p.m. Central, and I need to get my ass off before 10, or like at 10 p.m. or like before 10:15. Like sometimes I can work in an extra 15 or 20 minutes or so, but like I notice that the more I push myself, the easier it is to kind of like get off the wagon when it comes to my sleep schedule and things like that. And it's like, it's definitely speaks to just like the idea of hyperfocus. So like, oh, we're so into this one thing that we're doing right now that we feel like we could do it forever. And then you get to a point where it's like, oh wait, you actually can't do this forever, because you have to do things like go to the bathroom and like eat food and sleep and things like that.
Back whenever I was streaming more full time, I found it, as far as making sure you stop streaming before you ruin your sleep schedule, I found that if I played games that had good start and stop points, like Stardew Valley, for example. When it first came out, I was full-time streaming because I was between contracts, and I found it very easy to be able to do my entire stream schedule in, I think, in 14 days of Stardew Valley roughly equaled out 8 hours of IRL time. So I was able to get my 8 hours in each day, and it like be focused on doing the 14 days in Stardew. And sometimes I would go over by maybe 5-10 minutes in it, or I would be cut short because of, well, winter sucks in the game because you can't do anything.
Right.
So those streams were shorter, but at the same time, it kind of gave me a better balance as far as being able to know, hey, the summer's over. You need to stop shucking corn and go to bed, bud. Like it helped out a lot.
Right.
I've streamed Stardew Valley before, and literally what got me was like, oh, just one more night. Just one more day. Just one more day. I mean, because listen, Stardew Valley is not a video game. It is a lifestyle.
It's a life.
Yeah, it's a fucking lifestyle. And like when I'm playing Stardew Valley, when I'm on that train, it's just always just like one more day, one more day, one more day, and then I'm like, next thing you know, it was 11 p.m. when and this is usually when I'm playing it alone, honestly, but I'll be like playing at 11 p.m. and then just one more night. I'll one more night myself to like 1:30 a.m. Back when I was playing Stardew, it is addictive. That gameplay loop is really addictive.
Stardew Valley for me was perfect because I dreaded replanting all of my crops at the beginning of each new season. Mm-hmm. So like I would walk outside not realizing I've gone over and there's all these dead crops. I'm like, yeah, no, I was like, nope, not today. We're done. That's enough for me.
Oh my gosh, yeah, games like that can really just, at least for me, like be a more dopamine trigger. It's just like really easy to spend so much time on a game like that, where it's just like, oh, there's just always something new to do. But yeah, I wanted to ask about, do you guys like experience like anxiety when it comes to streaming?
Yeah, still to this day, like I get anxious about starting a stream every time I go to start a stream.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 5-6 years, and I still get super anxious.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that, especially people who experience streaming anxiety. I feel like a lot of people who experience streaming anxiety don't realize that like that's like everybody else. Like, well, not everybody else, but there's a good chunk of us out there who are still like can be somewhat super afraid to like press the go live button. And I don't, I guess part of it for me is like, oh no, what's going to happen? Or, what if I choke on this sort of thing, and it's hard to like kind of silence those voices after a while. But yeah, it's important to note that like people who have been doing this for a long time still struggle with the things that people who haven't been doing this for a long time struggle with. Do you have any experiences like that too, Soy?
I think it really depends on the situation. Like there have definitely been times where I've been terrified to hit the go live button for one reason or another. Like either I'm not feeling up to it, and I feel like I've shoehorned my way into having to do it by just announcing that I'm doing it. But I tend to, like, if I have a plan going into it that I feel I won't deviate from too much, I tend to be able to get around that. I don't know. I'm one of those people that does very well in stressful situations because I'm used to being in stressful situations. So I might not be the best person to ask for that specific thing.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. Definitely one of what you said about like having a clear plan, I think has definitely helped me a lot. I feel like I am definitely a lot more. It's hard. It's like kind of like a weird balance with how my feelings go because, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts before that like. For people with ADHD, especially those who haven't like put together like really, really good like emotional resilience and coping skills, like one bad thing can like fuck up our day, like in a way that it can't fuck up other people's days. Like it could be like one thing that just happens at like 8 a.m., right? And it's not a huge deal, but it can weigh on us for a long, long, long time. And I stream at 7 p.m. Central. Sometimes something that happened to me at 8 a.m. can like weigh on me so much to the point where like when it gets to 7 p.m. I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing? And I'm very stressed and like freaked out about, streaming and stuff like that. And I feel like having a plan is kind of a double-edged sword, because one, if I'm in a I sometimes like kind of I sometimes psych myself out of like letting myself do something different, like change my mind, because I'm like, oh well, I already said I would do this. What if I disappoint everybody because I didn't do that? I did this instead. At the same time, sometimes like knowing what I'm going to be doing is going to really help that anxiety, because at least I've kind of like had the day to chew on it. And I feel like the times when I'm just kind of like picking shit out of my ass, to stream, like, oh, it's my time, but I don't know what to do. The times when I like just pick random shit to do, like I feel like I am significantly less prepared, which for me can like really kind of tip off that anxiety that I struggle with sometimes. And a lot of that has to do with like experiences growing up and things like that. But yeah, definitely with the planning thing, I think that does help a little bit. And obviously like people with ADHD like have just different levels of like what planning works for them and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, there's one, it's really just like, I think one of the most important things that I learning about ADHD was that it affects like our abilities to deal with emotions. And I think once we start to understand that, the more things just get so much easier to deal with. It's like, oh, now I understand like why I'm freaking out so hard about this. You feel me?
Right.
Like, it's like, oh, now I know this about my brain. It makes it a lot easier to understand and to kind of like attack the situation from that particular angle.
I agree. I think the extended conversation there is definitely like with your relationships, because I know that it's taken my fiance a while to really come to terms with like how my emotions and my moods can go from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other, just at the drop of a hat. Like, say the wrong thing and it like murders my mood for like hours.
Yeah.
And while I'm usually good at picking up on it myself, it still takes a bit to get myself out of that funk. So
Yeah, that's a good topic. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to touch on the topic of relationships. And obviously, feel free to not say whatever doesn't work out for you. But like, how have y'all dealt with relationships? And how in what ways does ADHD kind of like add struggle to your relationships, or kind of on the flip side of the coin, does ADHD make you have better relationships in certain ways?
I've dealt with relationships very poorly. I guess it's a combination of choosing the right people to devote my time to, and finding the person that I guess gets me and is more patient with me. Because if like a relationship with someone who doesn't struggle with ADHD is somewhat difficult, in my opinion, because they don't really understand how your brain works, and it takes a bit for, if they haven't dealt with it as intimately as a relationship with someone, or in being in close proximity to someone with it. It's really taxing, really. It's like, as draining as it is for me. Like, I've had 29 years to learn how to deal with my own ADHD. It's very there's a massive learning curve when you've never really dealt with it, and all of a sudden this person that you really care about is acting weird in your opinion, but they're functioning at a high level or a mid-level sort of way, and it just doesn't make sense to you. Like, I've had to explain a lot of times, like, oh, this is something I do because if I don't do it this way, it won't get done. Like, cleaning. For me to be able to really focus on cleaning, I have to have like a bubble of chaos around me. Like, I have a YouTube video playing on my TV, have music playing on my phone, and I'm like focusing on the dishes, I guess, or whatever I have to work on.
Yeah, holy moly, that speaks a lot. I know a lot of people who have to have like their brain satisfied by something different in order for cleaning to happen. Like I found that I actually clean better if I'm like doing it with other people, when it's like a planned kind of like, hey, we're gonna get together at like 1 p.m. and start cleaning the house, like that kind of thing is a lot easier, because then there's like that outside kind of, oh, someone is kind of like expecting me to be there, so it's a lot harder to kind of let them down than it is to just kind of expect myself to do it. But yeah, like that's a lot. I know a lot of people who are like that, where they kind of have to give themselves like outside some sort of outside like stimulus to kind of be able to get through that thing that is just ridiculously hard, and is the thing that, when our sorry about this, I'm bringing up your volume a little bit. When our like brains are trying to focus on something that we don't want to do, it like will literally like shut down a little bit more. Like, our executive function will shut down a little bit, making it even harder. But yeah, that's another just important conversation, just about how like things like that can really affect relationships, managing kind of the workload, kind of like managing like who takes care of what. And because it really is, and I think that's like where a lot of like ADHD relationships can struggle, because sometimes we have to like put 3 extra steps forward to get to a certain place, and some people may have to just sometimes like understand that just like that's just what happened. Like, my brain just pooped, it didn't work the way that yours did, and that's just what happened. Would you like to share anything regarding your relationship, Ryu, and any struggles with ADHD?
I'm trying to think of anything. Well, I mean, my wife isn't ADD at all, so like her dealing with me as a person is just like a godsend, because I don't know how I deal with me, let alone someone that doesn't have ADHD. But I think she just has to deal with me being like random and very what is the word? Shit.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, sporadic, like just not very
predictable.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
we did it together. But yeah, just dealing with my randomness and my brain going everywhere and interrupting in the middle of serious conversations, and inconsistently being inconsistent.
Yeah, I've had to find somebody who is willing to fucking let me talk. I just talk and talk and talk. If I don't know, I'll find a way to fill silence, you know, and so I'll just talk and talk and talk, and so it's nice to have somebody who like understands that sometimes I'll just fucking talk and talk, and it's like not, it's just, that's just how it is, you know, like, and especially if I'm having like a serious conversation or something, I'll repeat myself a lot, you know, I'll repeat myself. Because part of it is like almost I want to hear it as well, you know, when I'm trying to like have an important conversation with somebody. So I'll repeat myself a lot. And a lot of it is just finding somebody who's willing to like understand why those quirks are there and, you know, be able to work with them. And it's really important to find somebody with whom like your quirks, you know, kind of intermingle, you know. I personally have struggled like a lot with relationships growing up. I don't know, just that's just how it was. Like growing up, teenage girls, you know, things like that. And also like having a difficult time with like dealing with my emotions. And kind of being able to like put name to my emotions. Do you guys find it easy to express your emotions? Like, has that been something that like came naturally to you, or did you have to work on it, or do you find that you're not really good at expressing emotions?
I feel like I'm decent at expressing emotions. It's just not always knowing which emotion you're feeling at the time. Like being able to nail down like why am I, like I know that I'm anxious, but why am I anxious? Or I know that I'm scatterbrained, but like why am I scatterbrained?
Yeah.
Or you know what it is. Narrowing, I have trouble narrowing down what emotion I'm feeling sometimes, because well, I mean not because of anything, just because
That's just how it is.
That's just how it is.
Yeah, that's just how it is. It makes sense. It makes sense. Like a lot of times, like emotions aren't just like one thing either, right? They're like, they can be really complicated. They can be like more than one thing at a time, you know? So that makes a lot of sense. How about you, Soy?
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like once I figure out what the emotion is that I'm feeling, I'm really good at expressing it. But like hammering down where I'm at is the difficult thing, and it takes a bit. And usually it's a lot of self-reflection. Like after a situation that's happened, like, so you did this and you felt like this afterwards. What happened? Like it's like the whole inside out like meaning of all the emotions. Like, so who broke it? I'm not angry. I just want to know who did it.
What happened? We're not angry. Just what happened? You gotta figure it out. Yeah, that's definitely relatable to me. I think it took me like a lot of I think the most important thing I learned from like therapy in general has just been my like learning how to slow things down a little bit so I could look at them better. You feel me on that? Like being able, like when I'm in the throes of emotion, just being like, okay, let's slow down. What's going on here? And then be able to kind of like take myself off the ledge before I get there. Therapy has been like absolutely life-changing for me when it comes to dealing with ADHD. Have any of you like done therapy before?
I had therapy when I was really young, and they were kind of monitoring me for changes in moods and everything when they put me on the different medications and doses.
Mm-hmm.
And then again in college, after I had a nervous breakdown like midway through a semester, and then I just stuck with that until I graduated, and it like helped me get through the last 2 years. Because I think I switched majors something like 4 or 5 times until I finally like landed on what I wanted to do, what I could see myself doing, and it being broad enough for me to like go from one end of the field to the other and be okay.
Right. How about you, Ryu?
I've been in and out of therapy since I was like pretty young. I'm bipolar, so I have to be in therapy pretty consistently. I haven't been actually going to a therapist recently because of COVID, because I mean it doesn't really work out with having to go in or being able to go in at all. So they just pretty much update my medication every month, and then I have to wait until this is all over to even see anybody.
Oh, that sucks. So they're not doing any kind of like telehealth or anything like that? Oh no, why? Like,
I don't know.
That's so weird because like
They're mean.
Yeah, I'm like it's my therapist's office moved to telehealth pretty quickly, so I'm surprised that your office had moved to telehealth. That's really weird. That's really strange. Like, I don't. Did they just not want to, or what? Like,
I don't know. I have no idea.
Like, how are they still operating? It seems like if they're not doing any,
They're not.
Yeah, like what?
They're just closed.
It's just everything's closed.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's all I get on the phone to do is just they're like, are there any changes in medication? Blah blah blah. Is there anything that we need to know? Okay.
Wild.
And then they send in my medication, and then that's it.
Wild. That like boggles my mind that they haven't done telehealth. And they're starting to find, like, just with with COVID and everything, that like telehealth is actually an option for people that, and like not in kind of not like, sorry, what I was going to say, doing it through the internet often they're finding it's not like really changing the quality of care. So I'm like really surprised they're not doing telehealth. That's wild to hear. Well, here's hoping that you're able to get the therapy when you need it, like, soon, and we can all just be done with COVID. Oh
Right.
my god. It's like they say it's maybe things won't be normal until like 2020, like late 2021 or something like that, or after 2021. Oh no. It just seems so scary, and it's wild to think that we've been dealing with this since March. Like, it's been a whole half a year since it started. It's insane. It's wild to think about. I do want to start wrapping up a little bit. Do we have any questions in the chat from anybody regarding ADHD, content creation, fatherhood, any of the topics that we had talked about today? Feel free to ask any questions if you'd like, and we'll make sure to answer those. Otherwise, we can just kind of start like winding down. So I pretty much, do we have any, like, you guys have any extra points you wanted to add before we start winding down?
I don't really have anything now.
Okay. Cool.
No.
Cool.
I'm good.
Awesome. All right. Well, let me see here. I'll give you guys like a minute to post in chat if you have any questions. Otherwise, I think we're good. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and for doing this podcast. I was telling y'all before we started, like, this is my first time speaking to people that I don't really know as well. So this was definitely a learning experience for me and something a little bit new for me to experience. And so I hope you guys had a good time. I hope that you found something fun and valuable in doing this. And I just wanted to thank you guys, from the bottom of my heart for being here and for letting me talk to you tonight.
Yeah, for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, well, this will be on YouTube sometime by the end of the week, and I'll send you guys the link when I'm done uploading it. But yeah, I think we're good to go. If we don't have any more questions in the chat, I think we're good. So I will pop off Discord call, and I'll keep in touch with y'all. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thank you so much for being here. This is, by the way, y'all, this is RyuTheRed and SoyTortuga. So thank you so much for talking to me. And yeah, you guys, good luck. Good luck with everything.
You too.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys. All right. So this is my Discord. Can you see my camera? No, you can't. Here. We'll go back in there. We'll go back in there. Turn on camera. There I am. Almost. Okay, cool. Lovely Discord. Lovely Discord. Well, that was awesome. I'm glad that I got to talk to them. We got a lot of good conversations in about, like, what it's like to be a dad with ADHD. We talked about, like, I'm glad that we could talk a little bit about our feelings about, like, kids and whether or not kids should have cell phones at a young age. Because, like, legit, I feel like, oh, hello, nice to see you guys. I feel like kids should just not have cell phones at this age. Now that I'm just, like, as old as I am with the experiences that I've had. That's just, that's just like one of those, I feel like such a curmudgeon. Well, yeah, thank you guys for being here. I'm gonna be uploading this to YouTube. I have started uploading these talks to YouTube recently. So if y'all want to, let me grab the YouTube link real quick. If you guys want to subscribe so you can see the future videos, I would love for you to do that. Oh gosh, where is my account? Here we go. No, what is happening? I can't use YouTube. I don't know how to use it. I think this is the right one. Flip phone only with minimum minutes. I know, right? I know, exactly. Okay, yeah, so this will be my YouTube page that has all the previous talks that we've done. And yeah, so community stuff going on this week. Tomorrow, I think on Thursday, I'm going to do our yoga stream. I think I'm going to do a yoga stream on Thursday because we beat the goal yesterday. And then we're going to do a yoga stream going into a community night on Thursday. So community night's going to be at 8 p.m. We're going to watch a movie. And we're going to watch a movie, and I think we're going to do is one of my favorite movies, either Knives Out. It'll be either Knives Out or A Scanner Darkly. One of those. So, yeah, but thank y'all so much for being here. That's kind of what's going on for the rest of the week. Let me find someone to raid, and we can send all of our hot love to them. So give me 1 second. Let me see who is available, and we'll give them a hot raid. Larry Bug's on. Let's raid. Okay, you know what? We're gonna raid Scotty Fox because Scotty Fox is actually applying for the Twitch like artist alley thing that's going on. It's kind of like a virtual TwitchCon thing that they're doing. So highly recommend Scotty Fox. He's going to be entering in his flow glove, his fox glove, flow kind of thing. And so we're going to go raid him and show him all that hot love. Our raid message is wanna get weird. Hot love. Yes, we're going to spread our hot love all over Scotty Fox. Yeah. Virtual Twitch. Yeah, there's like a really weird like virtual Twitch con they're doing where they're getting like people to do like artist alley stuff and things. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. All right, so let's raid Scotty Fox, who is someone that we talked to for one of our past ADHD podcasts. And yeah, we should be good to go. All right. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.